Hi guys. So today we're going to finish up our discussion on strings. So we're going to look at a couple of different things. Basically some string operations that you can use in strings. It's kind of like a whole catalog of these things. And we're not going to go through all of them in deep detail. You just have to look at them. They're pretty self-explanatory what most of them do, and it just depends on what you need to do in your program. Um, so one of the things we're going to look at is the in operator. So we have this in operator we can use. So we have string 1 in string 2, where string 1 can be literals, meaning it's just a string in quotes, or they can be variables. The string variables, take your pick. So we can use these things in if statements. So if string 1 in string 2, for example, we could say if cat in catalog, do something. Um, or we can also use this not in operator, which is if the string 1 is not a component or contained in string 2. So those are the two operators that we can use for testing to see if one string is a substring of another string. We also have a lot of different methods, and the general format is you're going to use the name of your variable dot method and then pass in some arguments. So there are a lot of these variables that are return Booleans. They can either be true or false, depending on if the condition exists, false otherwise. So here's a big list of them. Is alpha num, or is alpha num, which stands for, or is all num rather. So it returns true if the string only contains alphabetic characters, such as letters or digits, and it's at least one character in length. It returns false otherwise. So this would be if it's A, B, C, and it has 1, 2, 3, for example, then it would return true. Otherwise, it's going to return false. If there's no characters in an empty string, it's going to return false. Is alpha is only going to return true if the string contains only alphabetic characters and, again, one character in length. Is digit returns true if the thing that you're returning is a number. Is lower returns true if all of the letters in the string are lowercase. Is space returns true if the string contains only white space characters and is at least one character in length. So white space characters are spaces, new lines, and tabs. And this is really good. This one may look weird, like why would you have a string that's only spaces? But what it's really useful for is um, with the previous stuff that we're looking at, where we can do subsets. So, for example, we could loop over a string, and we could say if is space for a particular character or a subset of characters in the string. And so that's what you would use this for. You wouldn't really test like a whole string, but you'd usually be looking at a subset of the characters of a string. So is upper returns true if all the alphabetical characters in the string are uppercase, and again it has to have at least one thing, returns false otherwise. So these are useful functions depending on what you're trying to do with your strings. I don't know if you really want to memorize these things. You probably just want to look them up. Hey, I want to do X, what's the function to do that? And then you go and you look and you find some of these functions. There's actually a lot more. These are just a few. You'll have to look in the Python manual for the list of all of them. So some methods return a copy of the string to which modifications have been made. So this makes your strings, remember strings are immutable, you can't change them. So what this is going to do when you do this is it's going to make a copy of the string, make the changes, and then return that back to you. So string comparisons are case sensitive. Uppercase characters are distinguished from lowercase characters, so a capital A and a lowercase a will not match. We can use the lower and upper methods if we want to make string insensitive case insensitive string comparisons. All right, so the lower method returns a copy of the string with all of the alphabetical characters converted to lowercase. So this is basically going to turn all the letters in the string to lowercase. There's this lstrip function, which may look weird to you, but what this does is it strips out all the leading white space characters. So basically all the spaces, tabs, new lines that appear at the beginning of the string. So we also have these lstrip where we can remove specific characters. So we can not just return, say, spaces or white spaces. We could get rid of all the A's at the beginning of the string. We could get rid of all the B's. We could do anything that we like, but it would strip out any instances of whatever character we want to remove. So that's L strip. L strip, of course, stands for left strip, meaning like starting from the left-hand side, stripping towards the right. We also have R strip, which is the opposite. It starts on the right-hand side and strips to the left. And these functions do the same thing. They remove the trailing white space character. So the right-hand side of your string going forward. Think about your string as like a list, left-hand side, right-hand side. So strip returns a copy of the string with all of the leading and trailing white space characters removed. We can also use strip with a character version, so this works on the left and right hand side. And then we have the uppercase function, which returns a copy of the string with all the alphabetical letters converted to uppercase. Again, this is more like a set of library. There's a whole bunch of these functions in Python, and you'll really just have to go, okay, I have a task that I want to achieve. Let me go look at the list of all the functions that are available and figure out which one is the easiest to use to do what I want to do. Some of them will do multiple things. For instance, or there's multiple ways to do it. For example, let's say you wanted to do case insensitive. You want to search for like the word cat in your string, but you don't care if it's an uppercase cat or it's a lowercase cat. You could use to lower, or you could use lower, and lower would return a lowercase version, which would work just fine. Or you could use upper, upper would return an uppercase version. They would all be the same. In the first one, you'd look for a lowercase cat, and the second one, you'd look for an uppercase cat. Same thing with strip. You could use strip, you could use L strip, and then R strip, or you could just use strip. Take your pick. There's lots of different ways to do these things. There's no one particular way. You're just going to have to think about it and figure out what's the best way to do what you want to do. Alright, so a lot of times when you're writing a program, you only want to search for substrings. So there's several methods that can do this. So what a substring is it's a subset of a string. So let's say hello, my name is Chuck is my string. So a substring would be Chuck, for example. Hello is a substring. El is a substring. Any string that appears within another string is a substring. So we have some functions that can help us with this. So we have this ends with substring function that returns true if the string ends with a substring. So let's say I have the substring hello, my name is Chuck, no period. I say ends with, open quote, Chuck, close quote. Then this would return true because the string ends with the substring Chuck. Starts with does the opposite. It returns true if the substring starts with, or the string starts with the particular substring. It returns true or false. We can use find. Find is great. Find searches for the substring within the string, and it will return the lowest index of the substring, or if the substring is not contained in a string, it returns -1. So what this does is it finds the index, the smallest index of the substring. So the index being the number, the position number in the string, with the very first character being 0 and the last character being n-1. It's going to return the number where that string starts in your string. Replace will do something a little bit different. It works similar, so you can pass in a substring, a comma, and then the new string, which is the string that you want to replace that substring in your original string with. So let's say, for example, you wanted to replace Chuck with cat. You could put replace, comma, and then Chuck, comma, and then cat, and then this would replace the instance of Chuck with the instance with the substring cat. And this will do it everywhere that substring occurs. And remember, the way that you call these functions, the way that you call all of these functions, is you would say something like, let's say sentence. Oh, let me put this in presenter mode, presentation mode. So let's say sentence equals my name is Chuck. And so the way that you call these things is you say sentence dot replace, let's say new sentence equals sentence dot replace, except I can't spell, dot replace Chuck, comma, cat, in quotes. Oops. Silly Python. Putting my double quote in there for me. And then let's say let's print new sentence. Alright. So let's run this and we'll see that what it's going to do is it's actually going to replace Chuck with cat. And so this syntax that you see for sentence.replace is exactly what you want to do with all the others. So all the other methods that we looked at, so let's say upper, we wanted to call upper. And so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to run this and you'll see that it prints it all in upper cases. So all of the functions that you're going to call are going to look something like this. So that's the way that we're going to call all these functions. We show the functions as not belonging to or just standalone, but in fact when we call them, we're going to use variable dot something to make the calls. So there's the ends with, finds, place. Here's a table of them. So this is kind of a weird one. It's not a super interesting one, but the star symbol is a repetition operator. So what you can do is you can say string to copy star in, and it's going to make copies of the original string. Now, is this useful? I don't know. So let's say star 2, and then we can run this. And what it does is makes 2 copies of the string, my name is Chuck, right? So is that useful? I don't know. Personally, I don't think so. So the split method, we return a list containing the words in the string. So we haven't really talked about lists yet. Well, I guess we talked about lists some, but what the list operator is going to do is it's going to split the string into words. Let's take a look at one of these. Dot split. So let's run this, and you will see that what we get out, you'll see when we print it, this is actually not a sentence anymore, it's a list. So this is actually pretty useful. If you want to split your sentence into words, which a lot of times you do, you want to do an operation on a particular word. I seem to be in all right, dot. Let's see what it does with punctuation. So that's always a good question, right? So if you look, it leaves the punctuation with the last word. So punctuation marks get left as the last word. So split operator is fairly useful. So that is pretty much the end of the strings chapter. We're going to, I'm going to give you a programming assignment on this. So just hold on tight, and that will be coming out today. All right, thanks everyone.